Kongversation. I just woke up after a week, and I've been taken to a mysterious Air Force hangar. Hey, they're doing an autopsy on me.
Uh-oh. Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Chad McCanna.
And I'm Hyle Russell.
Welcome to the program, Hyle.
Welcome to the show, Chad. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too, even though I'm not looking at you. We're just talking to each other over Skype, but...
Oh, you can't see me, my friend, but I can see you.
Shit. I knew this apartment was a little too cheap. We've got an interesting show for you this week, folks. It's a topic that we flirt with a lot and probably have had several dedicated episodes about already, but hey, this is what happens when you get into your fourth season.
Oh, no, we've never done this one before. This one, I checked. No, this one is going to be about shared universes. Now, obviously, the subject matter of the conversation is a shared universe. It's the Donkey Kong universe, the rare animal universe, I guess you would call it, that has seen many spin-offs and various crossovers over the years. So we're going to be getting into a little bit of the mechanics of what makes a shared universe great and what makes a shared universe pure shit. And we're going to see where the Donkey Kong universe actually falls on that gradient scale.
Yeah, those are fair extremes. We also have a few listener calls, 4 of them, I believe. So you folks will weigh in and ask us some questions about your own thoughts on the concept of shared universes. But
sounds exciting.
As we dive in,
sounds exciting. I'm excited for this episode. This is going to be the best goddamn podcast I've ever heard.
Well, that might be overselling it a little.
I don't listen to podcasts, though, so it's a win-win.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, way better than Comedy Bang Bang, as far as you know. So, yeah, shared universes, as you said, are kind of in vogue of late. It seems like that you can't have a franchise that doesn't branch out and get little tendrils that will cross over now. Everyone's essentially aping the very, very successful Marvel movies model.
That's right. That's right. But you know what else is in vogue, Chad? Our Patreon. That's right.
I thought you were going to say the Vogue. And I'm going to say, no, Madonna has not been in vogue since the mid-90s. Our Patreon. You want to get through some due diligence.
I want to get through some due diligence. My favorite wing of the DK Vine shared universe. So, support DK Vine on Patreon if you want. We're at dkvine.com/Patreon. Not only will it help the website, DK Vine, and all of our various projects that require a little bit of capital, but also you'll get stuff in the mail or through digital means. It's great. It's like Christmas, only you have to work for your presents.
You only have to very, very slightly work. I think at minimum wage, you have to work for about 10 minutes a month, really, to get
there.
This.
You go. There you go.
At $1 a month, if you donate to the cause.
Is that minimum wage now? Wow, they've really done a number on it.
No, I said about 10 minutes. About 1/6.
Oh, I thought you were saying $1 a month was what the new minimum wage was. I was like, wow, things have gone down the shitter.
No. I'm assuming. Well, I guess minimum wage would be a little higher. Yeah, maybe like for 7 minutes at minimum wage, you can get some stickers.
Hey!
Yay! I don't know why we're contextualizing this and how much you have to work for it. That's really not how you sell things to people.
Because our audience are not a nation of takers, Chad.
Yeah. These are the true Americans and global audience.
Right. They're not looking for handouts.
Right. They pull themselves up by their bootstraps or whatever they wear on their feet. I'm sure they have straps, and I'm sure they're the classiest straps that you could ever have on footwear.
Wow, that just where did that was that your Donald Trump now?
That just people were saying my Trump is sounding a lot like Bernie Sanders, and yeah, they're gruff New Yorker kind of super soldier types. But Donald Trump, he really needs to be a little more nasally. That's the missing component. So I think from now on,
that's Pee Wee. That's Pee Wee Herman. That's Pee Wee Herman wearing Donald Trump's skin.
No, this is Pee Wee Herman. This is my Pee Wee Herman voice, Hyle. I know you are, but what am I?
They're very different. It's a matter of degrees.
Say what you will. I think I would vote the hell out of Paul Rubens for public office.
Absolutely. He's certainly been in less hot water than Donald Trump over the years.
That's right. And could
which
you
is
imagine
saying something.
Could you imagine if he redid the Oval Office to resemble the Playhouse?
Mm-hmm.
I think
beautiful. I would love to see Cherry in place there behind the desk.
I want Jambi as Secretary of State.
Just open the drawer of the whole cabinet.
Anyway, yeah. So, DK Vine on Patreon. Make magic happen. For the conversation itself, be sure to call the DK Vine hotline at 1-281-410-KONG. We got some calls this week. I had a question on Facebook over the week. How do I know what the show topic is that week so I can call in? Well, we usually announce it the day of recording, which is traditionally on Wednesday. Sometimes it gets delayed due to various ailments or whatnot, or technical difficulties. But we'll usually announce it on Facebook the morning of, or Twitter, or the forum, or through our Patreon itself. We usually announce it either the day before or the morning of, gives you a little bit of time to call in. We also will take any calls, and we'll answer those in our call sack episodes, which are multi-topic, anything goes, freewheeling kind of Wild West scenarios.
Yeah, I think we have one of those coming up fairly soon.
Yeah, next couple weeks. So be on the lookout for that.
Mm-hmm. Call us, subscribe to us on iTunes. We're all over social media. Rate the show if you like it, or maybe turn on a friend to it. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube. Go to dkvine.com/ whatever that platform name is, and it'll forward you along. So dkvine.com/Tumblr takes you over to our Tumblr page.
Yeah, RedTube actually works. Check it out.
Oh, yeah. Check out our RedTube social media platform.
It's just video of two gorillas fucking. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. probably not safe for work, but it's nature footage.
Oh, is animal sex safe for work? That's a good question. I think it would depend upon a workplace, because I think you could watch a nature documentary, an Attenborough narrated joint, at your workplace. I don't think anybody would object, so why not?
Well, not if you're like an open heart surgeon. You shouldn't be watching nature documentaries while digging around someone's chest cavity.
Oh, well, that's true. I guess. Unless, what if the patient, what if they respond well to that treatment?
It's never been tried as far as I know, and I am up to date on all of my medical journals. But perhaps there is something to this.
Ape sex. It is the key to good health. That's gonna be. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Doesn't matter.
Something.
Abort.
Obamacare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. So check out DK Vine all over the internet at this point, unfortunately for you. All right, so let's get to the show topic this week, Chad. Mm-hmm. And this is something I've been actually thinking about a lot over the last couple of weeks. Well, for most of my life, but last couple of weeks in particular, because it's kind of been interesting in that a lot of my opinions on what makes a shared universe great, or at least successful, has kind of been validated inadvertently over the last couple of weeks. And really, I think what did it was there's been a movie that came out. It was a February release, and if you know anything about movies, you know that kind of January and February are the dead zone of movies. They not the Stephen King dead zone, but basically it's the dumping ground for movies that they don't think are going to perform well, or quite frankly embarrassing. They're just there to basically have something in theaters, but they're basically write-offs. You get a lot of shitty horror movies in January and February, which if you think about it, is a weird time for horror movies. You think they would kind of line those up for October. But
it's the winter shitfucks of the film industry, or as Red Letter Media, the web series calls it, "Fuck you, it's January."
That's right. Yeah, February. And hell, I think it's the same thing for video games. Honestly, that's why it was kind of insulting that Tropical Freeze got released in February. Not that Nintendo was ashamed of it. It was just a luck of the draw, or unluck of the draw, as it were, that it came out like after the holiday season, but before like the spring thaw. So movies that come out in February usually don't do very well unless, it's something like Avatar, which was released in December, and because there's nothing else comparable at the time, it just kind of became the highest grossing film of all time. So, not taking inflation into account, then it's still Gone with the Wind, which I guess is unfortunate. I don't really know.
Yeah, but I also feel like it's like saying the MASH finale is the highest rated program. I think that fragmentation also needs to be taken into account, independently of inflation.
Yeah, a fragmentation, but 2009, media was already very fragmented, and it's still amazing that Avatar...
Oh, no, I'm referring to Gone with the Wind.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that
absolutely.
was probably the only game in town as far as movies go.
Absolutely. But I'm just saying that... you can clean up in these winter months, but you have to have a strategy involved. So it's very surprising when a movie does come along in February and kind of changes our perception of how this stuff works. And that movie is actually Deadpool, which I'll be on the record. I don't have any objections to this movie, but it's a movie I don't have any real interest in seeing. And I think you're the same way.
Yeah, I kind of the trailer hugely turned me off. And I hear that the trailer
hugely turned me off. It wasn't classy. It wasn't gold plated. There was a guy in a red mask. I was like, is he a communist? What are his business dealings? Total garbage.
I had to wonder, who is this X-Man? I've seen the silver guy before. I don't know the young one. She sounds like a loser. From 2016.
I don't know much about X-Men. I know some people are transgendered. It's not a very popular opinion. Not in my bathrooms, but I don't have a problem with it. Whatever. Trump 2016.
And by the way, I just blew my nose. That's why I don't have my new nasally voice quite so much. I really, now my Trump impression is thrown to the wind. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, Hyle. I've lost it. I'm a hack.
Well, it's a good thing you weren't working on your Jeb Bush impression, because it's really irrelevant at this point.
You mean Jeb?
Yeah. Anyway.
Jeb's gonna be paying off debt till he's dead. Yo, damn right.
Oh, whatever. He's from upper crust.
Oh, that's true.
Kenny
yeah, of course, his family,
dwelling family. Yeah. I mean, he's got donors, but come on, he'll make a few speeches and he'll be on his feet. That's the shitty thing.
As long as he's one of his mother's favorite 4 sons.
So anyway, Deadpool. Didn't have any interest in really seeing it, but especially since the trailers really turned me off because it kind of played up this violence, ultra violence, which I'm not a prude. I like some violence, whatever. But
yeah,
it just seemed a little bit like I've kind of been turned off of things like Tarantino recently that are just
really?
Tarantino, his shtick has gotten old to me, and I recognize that he's a competent filmmaker and that he's terrific in his craft, but I don't feel like he's adventurous in the movies he makes anymore. He's making the same movies again and again. Different genre throwbacks, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of violence. There's going to be a lot of unfortunate racial vernacular thrown around.
But Samuel L. Jackson's there, so it's okay.
It's okay, yeah. I don't know. It's just, they don't excite me anymore, and honestly, this ultra violence for the sake of it is just not shocking to me. It's kind of eye-rolling. So the way Deadpool was marketed, it was marketed more towards this is going to be a hard R-rated movie. It's going to be a lot of violence. He gets off on violence, and I from what I hear, it's not really fair to the movie in that there's a lot more subversiveness to it besides just people getting hacked up and shot.
Yeah, to me, it wasn't the ultra violence that I have a problem with so much, because I actually like that in movies. If you're going for schlock,
you're a sadist,
and it's schlock. Yeah, of course. I love seeing people hurt. I like hurting people. That's just who I am. No, I in a movie context, if that's the objective of the movie,
that's why you put that lead in the water in Flint. You just did it for shits and giggles.
Yeah, come on. What? It's not like anyone got hurt. Not immediately, anyway. No, I think that in a movie you can have fun with the visual medium of storytelling, and extreme violence that you would never want to see in real life. It can sometimes be that kind of unexpected thing that makes you kind of perversely gasp and then sort of question why you laughed and gasped and had fun with it. And it makes you feel conflicted, but you're still having a fun time at the movies. I have no problems with that.
Yeah.
But the way that it was portrayed in the trailer anyway was what you briefly mentioned, how he kind of got off on it. It was like, oh, I'm gonna be pleasuring myself to this gunshot wound tonight. Like, that's just kind of ugh.
Now, if they would have shown that in the trailer, I would have been on board. Full stop.
Oh, what, the actual deed?
The actual penetration.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, and then it also in the trailer it had this one of those scenes that Judd Apatow kind of established doing, where they let actors who are, you know, good improv comedians just kind of riff on one concept and then pick the best ones for the movie. But this was just kind of describing Ryan Reynolds' scarred face, and you're like the inside of someone else's asshole. I mean, all of it was, you can tell, you can like kind of see the shooting schedule and like, okay, you like that take? Let's try another. Okay, now just play with it, just have fun with it for a little while.
Especially since they had different lines in like various trailers, depending on if it was the red band or not. So you can kind of just see like, okay, now riff something that's more PG-13.
You're like an avocado had sex with an old avocado. Like, okay, you're describing the same thing, and none of these jokes are particularly well constructed or funny, but because they're improv, and that's okay.
Right.
You know, you throw everything at the wall sometimes, but it made it seem like the movie was disproportionately that, which I'm kind of over, and I don't want to pay to see. But it seems like there's actually much more to it.
Yeah, Judd Apatow is a hack, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that. I like Judd Apatow.
That's a whole other conversation. Anyway.
Oh, no, Hyle.
He's not a hack. He's not a hack, but I am over him as well. I was over him before it was cool. So anyway, that's besides the point. My point is, Deadpool, it wasn't very appealing for me, the trailers, whatever. But from what I understand, there's more going on with the movie than just the way it was kind of packaged and sold initially. And what's surprising is Deadpool is kind of breaking all sorts of records for February releases, for rated R movies. Like, you don't get many movies that are rated R, especially of this nature anymore. There was a trend for the longest time of cutting it down to PG-13. Like, movies couldn't be PG or R if they're of a certain genre, because you got to kind of play it straight down the middle to appeal to as many audiences.
The Terminator sequels.
Die Hard. I mean, the more recent Die Hard ones were PG-13. What? Die Hard? Really?
Yeah. Yippee-ki-yay, mother gunshot sound.
Yeah.
You're allowed one fuck, and in a Die Hard movie, you should use it for yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. What is wrong with you people?
Yippee-ki-yay, stranger in the Alps on this Monday to Friday plane. Yeah, it's...
what was that one of the Big Lebowski ones?
Big Lebowski was Stranger in the Alps. Monday to Friday plane was Snakes on a Plane instead of...
okay.
I've had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
One of my favorites was Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. Instead of Jesus Christ, it was Judas Priest.
Judas Priest. I know. Which actually it kind of works considering the character and the time period and the fact that it's Keanu Reeves. But anyway, I can see Keanu Reeves actually saying that. Judas Priest. So anyway.
Mr. Anderson was a huge fan.
Oh, future star of Young Conquer. Anyway, Deadpool's kind of broken all these grounds, but it's also kind of shocked people because this is ostensibly a superhero movie, because Deadpool is an X-Men character. He's a spinoff of the X-Men.
Is he a mutant?
He is a mutant, or at least he's like a mutant. He became a mutant. I'm not really sure. He's a Rob Liefeld creation, early 90s. So from a period of extreme schlock at Marvel Comics. And Rob Liefeld is a notorious hack and basically the epitome of everything that was wrong with comics in the 90s and to this day. But Deadpool...
Well, from what I understand, like, there are some characters in the Marvel universe that are mutants, but they don't wear that on their sleeve. Like, and I'm sure we'll get callers because I'm probably wrong about this, but from what I understand, Spider-Man, Peter Parker's a mutant, and that's why the spider bite did not kill him, instead bestowed him.
If he was ever a mutant in any stories that's kind of been forgotten about, that would be like this obscura that's never really brought about. I don't think Spider-Man...
It's like his only mutant power was being able to survive that bite, and that bite is what gave him the rest of the powers. That's the way I understand it.
I'm more of a DC guy, honestly. Like, that's what I grew up with, DC. Although it's been harder and harder to be a DC fan over the last 5 years or so. So, anyway, my point is, Deadpool is a character from the X-Men franchise, and he is a spin-off of the X-Men franchise. And actually, he is the first actual spin-off from the X-Men cinematic universe that's been going on at 20th Century Fox since 1999, actually. That was the year, or no, it was 2000. It was 2000 that the first X-Men movie came out. And yeah, that's been going for 16 years now. I mean, holy shit. DK Vine's still older than it by a few months, but...
do you not count the Wolverine attempts at spin-offs
I guess the Wolverine... the one Wolverine movie, it's kind of like a Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island situation, where you've got this branding that's it's ostensibly a different movie, but it's got... X-Men Origins Wolverine can be considered a spin-off and a mainline series installment at the same time. But I guess the Wolverine would be a spin-off. Deadpool is a little bit bigger of a spin-off because it's a more obscure character to the masses, or at least it was as of a few weeks ago. And they basically just... This is a film that only got made because Ryan Reynolds was pushing for it for years, and they finally just relented and gave them a small budget to work with. But
they even let him play Deadpool previously, but his mouth was sewed shut in that movie.
Yeah. He well, at the end of the movie, his mouth got sewn shut. Yeah, and he became the villain of the piece. But what's interesting about Deadpool is it's a superhero movie that's part of an existing universe, a spin-off of this universe, and yet it went for a hard R rating, tried to play to a completely different audience, and shattered box office records in February. Like,
that's a ballsy move.
It's a ballsy move, but I realized it felt very familiar. Like, something about it felt very familiar to me, and I was trying to place it, and then I realized why I've seen a similar situation to this before. It's Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Interesting.
Okay, because basically Conker's Bad Fur Day was a hard, mature-rated game that spun out of Diddy Kong Racing. And it was, again, Nintendo didn't know how to market it. It was a game that shattered fourth walls. I mean, Conker had a conversation with the programmer in it, and Deadpool, it's very similar. He makes all sorts of fourth wall shattering remarks, comments on the fact that he's breaking the fourth wall, comments on the actors playing Professor X in the X-Men movies, does all sorts of things while getting dragged by Colossus from the X-Men movies and going to the X-Men mansion. It's something that really has no fundamental respect for the basic boundaries of, what constitutes a fictional reality. And yet,
I think at one point, from what I've watched some YouTube reviews of this movie, and they say that he starts referring to actors like James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart
that's
instead of their characters.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah.
I kind of stroked out for a minute.
Oh, that's fine.
I was actually reading our we do this podcast live for Patreon patrons, and people were telling me how wrong I am about Peter Parker being a mutant. That's what my intention was.
There you go, Chad. You're a fraud. Yep. It's a good thing this isn't a Spider-Man podcast, right?
Apologies.
Yeah. I'm sure in some interpretation, even if it was a one-off alternate telling of the story, he was a mutant. Just look it up. I'm sure you'll be able to find something in the literature. But nonetheless, Conker, did the exact same thing. Now, granted, it was much less successful, but that's because by virtue of what it was, and it was a video game for a system that was already fading, being the N64, and it was not promoted at all, and in fact was probably sabotaged a bit by Nintendo, considering their magazine designed to pimp out Nintendo products refused to even mention it. So, Conker still developed a huge cult following, though, and you can basically say it's a success in spite of everything thrown against it. So,
if not in sales figures, certainly in the public opinion,
in the value of the IP, I would say. Because it became kind of a legendary cult game, and as we saw from Rare Replay, Bad Fur Day is probably the most popular game included in the 30 in Rare Replay, and Microsoft clearly sees that. Conker, we're going to see a new Conker game eventually, whether it's Young Conker or not. I am sure that Microsoft is thinking, how can we utilize Conker? I mean, we already saw on the Xbox UK Facebook page the other week, they included Conker in all these, because the Facebook has these new reactions. You can do more than just like something now. You have all these different faces. And so Microsoft did these parody versions featuring current Xbox characters, and Conker was among them, right alongside,
including Phil Spencer.
Yeah. So it's interesting that Microsoft is definitely trying to raise Conker's profile a bit, no matter what they're actually up to. But anyway, So I realized Deadpool is basically Conker's Bad Fur Day for the X-Men cinematic universe. And so I was wondering, well, why is Deadpool so successful? Why do people respond to Conker so much? And I think the answer lies into my theory of what makes a shared universe great and what makes a shared universe shit. And
well, before you get into that, let's take a call and see what some of the listeners think.
Oh God, if it's about ducks, I swear to God, I'm gonna go off.
Hi guys, Kev here.
Oh, good.
I've recently been watching through the Russell T Davies era of Doctor Who, including the spin-offs. For anyone who doesn't know, there were two main spin-offs during this era of Doctor Who. There was Torchwood, which was intended for older audiences, and the Sarah Jane Adventures, which was intended for younger audiences. Now, these shows are very different in terms of tone, concept, and general suitability to, the different audiences. But yeah, in the Series 4 finale of Doctor Who, they pulled off a very impressive crossover with all the major characters from each show coming together to fight one greater enemy. The story is easy to follow for people who don't watch the spin-offs, but it has Easter eggs and sort of nods and winks to the fans who do. Now, what I was going to say was the DKU is essentially a very loose fanon, but Rare has shown over the years, especially recently, that they're aware of the concept of some of their games sharing the same universe, even sort of directly interacting with some of us on Twitter, especially Chad last year. But anyway, my question for you is, would you love a full-on Doctor Who or Avengers-style celebratory crossover game, or do you prefer that the greater universe is kind of loosely stitched together by a bunch of fucking nutjobs like yourselves? Alright, see you guys. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Kev.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Kev from the Logcast. Check that out. Another Rare-centric podcast.
Over on Rare and Friends.
Rare and Friends, yes. Rare and Friends. Everybody's invited. Not Rare and enemies, though. The enemies can stay home.
Yeah. We will have none of you. Or they will. I don't care. I'm ambivalent to the enemies status of Rare and Friends listeners. So Kev's point is kind of the one that I was waiting to spring upon you, because while, yes, we do have branching paths, the branches very rarely, if ever, cross back together. And that's the key difference between what I think people, non-DK Viners think of as a shared universe. It's, you can have Tony Stark show up in Captain America 3. You have these tentpole events like Batman versus Superman or the Avengers. They do, I know. They do ultimately cross back over, and they weave in and out of each other's consciousness. And then you have TV series spin-offs, and Agent Carter can have her own Marvel TV show, but also occasionally show up in the Captain America series. It's a lot of Captain America stuff that they tend to root these things in. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is another example. Phil Coulson died in the Avengers and then showed back up again in a TV show, but they made it work. And, that's the sort of thing that people think of. And we don't have that.
We don't, but we kind of do it. I mean, okay, we don't have And this actually ties into my theory, and I'm going to be getting into Marvel a lot because that is kind of the standard bearer of shared universes. But my argument is that Marvel is the wrong way to do it.
Really? Well, I think this might be why Hollywood ran you out on a rail.
They ran me out before the shared universe fads began, so don't worry. They're going to be calling me after this episode saying, we were wrong.
Yeah, we give back all our billions and billions of dollars.
Okay, yes, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, very successful. But it's successful because it was the first to really do it, but it's also... I'm going to argue there's diminishing returns for what they're doing. The Donkey Kong universe. Basically, our definition of it is everything starting with Donkey Kong Country spinning out. Basically, Rare's games starting in the mid-90s that had a clear shared existence with one another. And we follow characters. So essentially, Banjo, Conker, Tricky... we're all introduced in Diddy Kong Racing, so they get their own games, their own game franchises. We follow them. Banjo's pet goldfish Royston then has multiple appearances in new Rare franchises. We follow those, branching out of Banjo-Kazooie. And then, of course, sometimes Donkey Kong and some other characters cross over with other franchises, kind of different trees that sometimes the branches commingle before returning to their own home tree.
Trunk.
Whatever.
Yes.
So anyway, I realize that's not the way trees or nature work, but in my mind, yes, it does. In this,
but it fits your metaphor, so you should run with it.
I will. Anyway, so yeah, so basically, yeah, you're right. Like after Diddy Kong Racing, Banjo and Conker never interacted physically with Diddy Kong again, but there are references to one another in their games, more so in the Banjo series, of course. And then once the buyout happened, that stuff kind of dried up. Even in the Returns era for Donkey Kong Country, Retro still made little oblique references to Banjo and Kazooie, or at least inspiration from. But
you mean the puzzle pieces?
Yeah, but I mean Nuts and Bolts. To this day, Nuts and Bolts, for example, reference Diddy Kong Racing. You get stuff in the game still that reference back to their parent series or where it all started. But that's seeing the Captain America shield in Tony Stark's workshop. That's not Tony Stark fighting Captain America in Captain America 3. Right.
These are very different things.
Which is why I feel like following Captain America 3, the public's going to start getting burned out on what Marvel is offering. Because Captain America 3 isn't a Captain America movie. It has Captain America in the title, but it's essentially an Avengers movie.
I don't think people care. I don't think people care if it's a subset of the Avengers. At this point, I think the public has spoken. This is what they think of as a shared universe. Like I don't know what you're basing this idea that fatigue will happen. I don't see any signs of fatigue. You just talked about how, people are hungry for a kind of a postmodern piss take on the concept because it's new and fresh, a la Deadpool. But I still think Captain America 3 is going to do gangbusters. It's going to do well, but look back to last summer. We had a movie called Ant-Man, which did fine. It pulled in respectable numbers, not nearly as much as past Marvel movies, though. And Ant-Man was kind of the source of a little bit of a tug of war behind the scenes. Yeah. You had Edgar Wright, who is considered as one of your favorite words, an auteur. He has a very unique filmmaking style. He, did Shaun of the Dead. He did Hot Fuzz, which, by the way, I actually went back and watched Hot Fuzz the other month. Loved it. It turns out when I'm not getting fucking hammered off McCanna Mad Hatters, I can actually appreciate the movie and what I'm seeing. It's a brilliant movie.
Yeah, you showed it to me when you were getting me drunk one night in L.A., and I fucking hated it because I was losing my ability to reason and my ability to actually process the world around me, and I got blackout drunk, and I woke up and I vomited in the shower the next morning, you fucking prick.
I'm sorry. I thought it was going to help you appreciate layered metatextual comedy.
There were two nights that happened. We watched the Beatles' Help, and then we watched Hot Fuzz the other night. And
the night where we said let's take a shot for every time they try to steal Ringo's ring.
God damn it! Yeah.
And there were like 5 attempts in as many minutes.
The only thing I really remember, I remember that, and I remember like when Paul shrunk down on the floor, and it was like the Adventures of Paul on the floor.
Tiny Paul.
Yeah, he was like
Tiny Paul.
He was like naked on the floor, like covering himself up with newspaper. So
Yeah.
God damn, that was a nightmare. So anyway, I never threw up that hard. Like that was just putrid. That concoction you made, good lord, that's a war crime. Trump's going to use that to torture people when he becomes president.
For those who are curious at home, the McCanna Mad Hatter. I did not name it.
Do not do it.
It is a double shot in which you take Ice 101, fill the shot glass halfway, and float creme de cacao over top. So it was described as an Andes mint that kicks you in the face. I haven't had one in about a decade because it sounds like the world's worst thing that I could do to my body. But hey, your mileage may differ.
It's been 6.5 years since I last know you consumed one. So anyway.
Okay. Well, around a decade. I probably would have had a better figure on that had I not had so many McCanna Mad Hatters.
I would rather prepare a drink from that semen cocktail book you gave me. Swear to God.
Okay. For listeners who don't know, I only gave that cookbook to Hyle because he gave me a semen cookbook the year before, and Turnabout's fair play.
Hey, with climate change, we're going to have to look towards renewable resources for food.
Why is it? This is the second week in a row that semen has come up on this goddamn talk show podcast.
Yeah, I know. Look, it's the source of us all. What can I say?
It's a beautiful thing.
It is manna from our loins.
Should you want to take another call?
Let's take another call.
Good day, lads. Grab 69 here. How's it going, eh? Well, let me tell you something, lads. I saw on the Kongversation thread on the DK Vine forum that you lads are looking for calls about the benefits of a shared universe. Well, let me tell you something, lads. The benefits of a shared universe. You could make great collaboration type games or whatever. A bit like a secondary Diddy Kong Racing. But instead, this could be a good old porno.
Okay.
So, right, you have Candy Kong and Crystal and Dixie Kong.
Should we stop this?
I want to see how this plays out.
Tiny Kong.
All right.
All getting together in a scene and getting it on. And then a bit later on, lads, Monkey Kong gets in with his massive bazooka, if you know what I mean.
You mean his firearm?
And
I don't know what he means, Joe.
So I reckon that's a great benefit of having a shared universe. So, yeah, Diddy Kong Bang Fest 2. All right, lads. Have a good one.
He dropped character there.
Yeah, he was amused at his own shtick for a brief moment.
Well, Diddy Kong Bang Fest 2 is, quite clever. I could see why the facade cracked just a little bit.
I'm glad we gave him the opportunity to see his idea through.
Scraps, buddy. You couldn't work something like Kevin Calabang in there, like at least source where these rumors are coming from.
Oh man, yeah, that's a great point, Scraps.
No, but I'm glad Scraps brought that up because it ties into my larger narrative here.
Oh, does it?
Essentially,
oh God, where are we going?
Captain America 3 feels like just a big orgy of Marvel characters at this point, and I feel like the identity of all of the Marvel films. Well, I will go back to Ant-Man because I lost my point talking about your cocktail mixing instead.
Mm-hmm.
But
you lost your own way there. That was none of my doing.
Well, because every time I remember it, I get drunk again. That's how potent they are. But the identity of Marvel movies themselves, like Captain America movies, do not feel like they're not about Captain America. They're about the larger narrative in the Marvel universe. And each Marvel movie is about kind of cranking the gears, like moving the universe forward to the next movie. It's all about it. It feels like they're all focused, especially as the universe has progressed, on what's happening next. Like, what's the next big tentpole thing for the fall or the summer, And
it's funny, we spent some time on our X-Files mini podcast talking about how they've sort of mixed up the way they tell X-Files stories now, where they have this standalone story, but they also advance some character narrative in tandem with that, whereas they used to do one or the other. And that's kind of what Marvel's doing here, where if you to a certain extent, I mean, you can still enjoy them as standalone movies, but there are events in Captain America 2 where, you know, that deal with Hydra and what that does to S.H.I.E.L.D. And, you know, there is context that you would miss out on if you didn't see one of these pieces of the larger puzzle.
Yeah, but to an extent, though, the X-Files is a serialized television show unto itself. I mean, it's a self-contained...
I'm just comparing it to a previous conversation. I'm not saying that it's valid in movies because it works in TV.
Right. I think a more apt comparison would be if the X-Files was brought back alongside The Lone Gunman and Millennium, and you had to watch all three to really understand what was going to happen in the next episode of each. Which, honestly, I would be okay if they brought back The Lone Gunman and Millennium, so long as Chris Carter had nothing to do with them. But, yeah, it's... You look at the Donkey Kong universe, and I'm going to bring up some other shared universes here to prop up my point a little bit. But you look at the Donkey Kong universe, you know, you've got that sense of community, but I think it's all the stronger because you don't have Banjo and Conker appearing in each other's shit all the time. I think
so.
That
you would not want to see what Kev was talking about. This Avengers style.
It's a slippery slope. I would love to see a game like a Donkey Kong Universe game, especially if Phil Spencer said, "Hey, Nintendo, let's team up. We'll let you use Banjo Conker. You let us use Donkey Kong. We'll make a game across our platforms." It would never happen, but it's a fun to fantasize. You know, a game where, you know, all these rare properties team back up. I would be okay with an Avengers-style game so long as it's a one-off, or at the very least, the team-ups are self-contained in this franchise itself. So long as it's not, therefore, infecting the main series with, here's Banjo in a Donkey Kong game, here's Conker in Star Fox Adventures 2. You know, not that would ever happen, but I think part of what makes the Donkey Kong universe so good is that it was never planned to be a shared universe. It was kind of an organic growth that we noticed when we were kids, and we ran with it and created DK Vine, but there was never an iron-fisted executive controlling the narrative of how these games would interlock with each other.
Yeah, it wasn't architected out as this multi-year plan the way Marvel has done.
Right, and Playtonic is actually planning that right now with Yooka-Laylee, which might even, you know, connect back to the main Donkey Kong universe. So there's that link between what they're building with their Playtonic universe. However, I'm not as worried about what they're doing, because they're essentially, they're going to introduce... it sounds like more like what they did with Diddy Kong Racing. They're just going to introduce whatever they have planned for their next game. They're going to introduce that character in Yooka-Laylee and go from there. They're not going to really have this master plan that they're all leading up to, you know, Yooka-Laylee, the Infinity War in 2027 or whatever. And every move they make is going to be in service of this master plan. And it feels like it's just going to be a little bit more freewheeling than that. They are going to build a shared universe, but it's not going to be with like this huge Bible of every, you know, what the moves they're going to make towards constructing it.
Yeah, it strikes me as curious, though, to hear you say that you wouldn't want to see Banjo and Conker interact, because it seems kind of analogous.
I would want to see them interact so long as it didn't poison their individual franchises, because they have.
I gotcha.
They have to have their individual identities, and that's what I feel like the Marvel Cinematic Universe has lost. Going back to Ant-Man, it was a serviceable movie. It was fine, but Edgar Wright ran into a lot of behind-the-scenes tug of war because he didn't want that Marvel shared universe stuff appearing in his movie, because he had a particular story he wanted to tell with his character. And Marvel, no, they wanted the Falcon to appear in it. They wanted all these references to the Avengers to appear in it. And
that was the stuff that I found the most annoying about watching the
exactly.
Ant-Man.
And Ant-Man just felt like watered down. Even the plot just felt like another Iron Man movie. And I mean, you could say it was Iron Man with more quips, but Iron Man's a quippy character. All the Marvel movie characters are quippy characters. Quippy, quippy, quippy. There's this house style to
Well,
them.
they're all Joss Whedon characters, you know. I mean, and I know that he wasn't involved. I mean, it was really what's his name? He's so money baby, he doesn't even know it. Guy who directed the first Iron Man.
Jon Favreau. Yeah,
he
yeah.
really got the ball rolling, but at this point, it is really kind of a Joss Whedon brainchild, and that's how Joss Whedon characters are written.
But that's why you need that individual auteur style. That's why you needed Edgar Wright to do Ant-Man, and why the loss of him was such a big blow, because I think the only Marvel movie that's worked for me since the Avengers, Winter Soldier was okay because it at least had its own style, but even then it was more about the downfall of S.H.I.E.L.D. versus any story they had to tell about Captain America and Bucky. But Guardians of the Galaxy, it had Thanos in it, you know, it had all this, but it felt so disconnected from everything. Combined with the style of the movie was more just a fun sci-fi romp. That worked for me really well.
And it was very successful.
It was very successful. Just like Deadpool, and these are different shared universes, but just like Deadpool was so surprising. Everybody thought Guardians of the Galaxy was going to flop because it differed from the house style so much, and it featured unknown characters. And guess what? It was a surprise success, and I think the success has even trickled down to the point where the soundtrack itself is like the best-selling soundtrack for like in a decade, I think.
Yeah. And not to continue to rip off points made by Red Letter Media, but you look at DC and they're kind of doing a similar style thing with Suicide Squad that was done earlier with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, at least
like
in the trailer, they're trying to sell it as kind of Guardians of the Galaxy. But I'm glad you brought up DC, and we'll deal with DC before we take another call. With the DC cinematic,
we're going to solve the DC problem right here.
with the so-called DC cinematic universe, which is just getting ready to be kicked into high gear with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which you want to talk about clunky ass titles. Good lord, that's Jesus Christ. Everything about that movie looks like the drizzling shits. And it's come out recently that Warner Brothers is worried about audience reaction to it because it's just kind of, they're like, oh, we made a piece of shit. But the problem with the DC style is they're going for this uniform style as well that Marvel's going for, but they're going for the complete opposite. Instead of quippy characters, instead of like this lighthearted kind of popcorn fluff, they're going for brooding and dark and, you know, overwrought. And
yeah, because comic is right there in the name. I mean, it's yes, they
well, you don't want to pigeonhole.
You
don't want to pigeonhole them in a particular style. I mean, there's been some very great comic books that have been very adult and dealt with some heavy themes. I mean, you don't want to.
Sure. I mean, The Watchmen is not hilarious. It's really good. The movie maybe less so, but it's, yeah, as you say, it's an adult property. It's the pigeonholing effect. You're right. That's what it is. It's appropriate for Batman. It works very well for Christopher Nolan's vision of that world. But equally,
but even
Adam West version of Batman works very well.
Can I say that people always say how dark Christopher Nolan's Batman movies are? You go back and watch them. There was like jokes left and right. It was. They weren't as brooding as they took the subject matter seriously, but I don't think they were like. They weren't the emo hot topic fest that Batman v Superman is shaping up to be. And
they took the wrong lessons from the Christopher Nolan
absolutely.
movies.
But here's the thing, and here's why the DC cinematic universe is stalling right out of the gate. It's because it's built on the bones of Man of Steel, and basically this is why they got their shared universe so wrong.
Speaking of the Watchmen movie maybe being less successful than the book, thanks a lot, Zack Snyder.
The entire thrill of seeing Batman and Superman face off, it's that they're such different characters from such different worlds. Superman is an optimistic character. You know, he was. You know, he had a loving upbringing. He's essentially a normal guy who discovered he's an alien and he can fly. But he's a Boy Scout. His world is full of sunshine and rainbows, while Batman is this brooding guy who lost his parents. But they're supposed to be stylistically different. Man of Steel tried to ape the Dark Knight movies, took all the wrong lessons from them, and they essentially made a Batman movie with Superman, and nobody really liked it. It did all right
and they
financially.
didn't even make a Batman movie with Superman. They made like a certain ill-advised version of a Batman movie, even less, even more ill-advised with Superman in it. Like, I don't even think if Batman were in the style of movie as Man of Steel, it would have been that good. Because, as you say, that's not what even Christopher Nolan's movies were really like.
Right. So basically what you're getting with Batman v Superman, and why nobody's really looking forward to it, is you're getting the same shade of movie crossing over with each other. And my whole point that I'm trying to make is that a shared universe is supposed to be huge, sprawling, messy, and wildly different, having different tones, having different styles. What I love about the Donkey Kong universe is that you've got a game like Donkey Kong Country that's kind of more like an Indiana Jones meets the Discovery Channel kind of thing, You've got Banjo-Kazooie, which is kind of a fractured fairy tale. You've got Conker, which is basically an hard R, fourth wall shattering Tex Avery cartoon.
Right.
You've got
it's an adult party cartoon.
Right. You've got a sci-fi epic with the dinosaur Planet Wing, what we used to call DKU Star Fox, and you've got weird shit like It's Mr. Pants, which are stick figures celebrating, an underwear designer / model who's turned celebrity.
Model.
He is an underwear model, though. That is mentioned in the Mr. Pants instruction booklet, I believe. Mm-hmm. He's an underwear designer / model. You've got
Body by pants.
You've got Goldilocks and Little Bear. You've got it runs the gamut from all ages, all different styles. But you know what? Life is like that. Our actual universe is so very different and at odds with one another. So to have could you imagine our universe in one house style, quote unquote? Like it.
You mean we're Vicodin addicted doctors?
Right, like what if it was all the same shade of gray, basically? No, our world is huge and messy, and we don't get along with each other because we're all so very different. And that is what makes a good shared universe. So let's take a call. I want to get back to this point and compare the Donkey Kong universe to some other shared universes.
All right.
Hey guys, ACZ here. ACZ here, calling to talk about what makes a great shared universe. Now, I know the first thing that you guys usually thought of when you probably asked this question is what makes a great shared universe in terms of video games and all that stuff, but with my example, I actually want to point to animation and just talk about a little bit about that for a second. And that is sort of what some people believe to be a shared universe between two shows that seem a bit unlikely, and that's Rick and Morty and Gravity Falls. Now, the reason why people think there is sort of a shared universe between them is because they have very small details and Easter eggs that appear sometimes. Not only are the two creators of those shows, Justin Roiland and Alex Hirsch respectively, but there are also very, very small Easter eggs and cameos that some items or characters might just slyly appear in it. And I think that leaving something open but still making it mysterious really does make a shared universe great also. It's always great to have these small threads that sort of connect it, but not really fully explain why. And I was wondering if maybe you guys could find anything maybe in the DKU like that, possibly. Maybe how Saberman is sort of connected to the DKU, but not really. Anyways, that's about it. Talk to you guys later. See ya.
Thank you for the call, ACZ. I think what he's referring to is more Easter egg type stuff. The one that leaps immediately to mind are the mermaids, from
Yes.
the species from Donkey Kong 64. We named her Pearl. She's in the bottom of Gloomy Galleon. And that same model was used for the statues at the bottom of Atlantis. And obviously that's just because, there was probably some crossover in the art teams working on those games concurrently. They decided to just share assets, and they retextured it to look like stone. But what that does do is give us some connective tissue between those two game series, which at that point were completely bifurcated.
That's right. So, I mean, basically, we've got this underwater civilization that there is this shared link between what we see in DK64, what we see in Banjo-Tooie, which, already has that connection back to Diddy Kong Racing, but then you've got that further contextual link, making the world feel more real and lived in. It's not... The thing that drives me crazy about, say Mario is when they don't reuse assets between different teams, when, what's going on in... say the Mario and Luigi games aren't necessarily ever referenced outside the Mario and Luigi games. There's that team tribalism that goes on that we've talked about with Nintendo, or that seems to go on. Where, if your team didn't create it, then they're hesitant to use it. Whereas Rare never really had a problem with that. That they basically just, oh yeah. And again, that's probably because team members sometimes floated, whatnot. But I like that it felt more like they were actually trying to build something, even if they weren't. I appreciate the implication that there was always a little bit of thought put into it.
Yeah, and even as recently as Tropical Freeze, there are some references to way earlier games like Donkey Kong Jr. in the Fruit Jungle Factory world.
Donkey Kong 3.
Donkey Kong 3, I apologize. Stanley the Bugman was apparently on that island with all the oinks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's really cool when those things happen. And a lot of times, I'm sure you get this on Facebook. I get it on Twitter every now and then. People will cite some of these really cool examples and say, does this make this game Donkey Kong Universe? And I think that that's one of the things we have a hard time explaining to people, is that while we call the games that we cover the Donkey Kong Universe, it's not describing a physical universe.
Right. And I think that, honestly, somebody posted on the forum the other week something that really resonated with me, and this is kind of a little bit off topic because it's not really talking about what makes a shared universe great. It's more akin to our understanding of what makes a concrete shared universe. But the creator of the comic book Savage Dragon was talking, and a lot of people asked him because his comic crossed over with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Who have also crossed over with the X-Files and the Ghostbusters and the Lone Gunman. There's a whole bunch of different Ninja Turtle continuities and canons at this point, though. I mean, it's been rebooted time and again. And the movie Turtles Forever established that it's actually a Turtles multiverse when the 80s cartoon crossed over with the early aughts cartoon. People are always asking him, since your comic crossed over with Ninja Turtles and Spawn, that makes them part of the Savage Dragon universe. And he said, no. Basically what happens is, in that crossover, yes, that particular crossover is part of both the Savage Dragon universe and the Ninja Turtles universe. But when the two properties then part ways, whatever happens in Ninja Turtles has no bearing on my property. So I can end the world in my series, and the world's not ended in the Ninja Turtles. And that's because whatever happens in Savage Dragon from that point on isn't canon with the Ninja Turtles. And that's essentially...
but that gets messy, though, because when you start deciding, what is and isn't canon... I mean, you're essentially talking about a multiverse that splits off. And I think that...
No. But what he's saying, though, is that... Really, as a fan, if you're like a hyper fan of the Savage Dragon, and this is from the creator of Savage Dragon, I think Eric Larson. Not Eric Larson. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. That's a name I pulled out of my ass.
He's the creator of the Far Side.
The Far Side, yeah. It's something similar to that. Then he's probably a cow. But anyway, what he's saying is like, all you need to worry about is this one crossover. So for example, we don't need to worry about, let's say, Super Mario Galaxy, but we need to worry about Mario Kart, because whatever happens to Mario Galaxy isn't essentially canon to what happens to the Donkey Kong universe.
Well, but but in that case, it's because though that is a multiverse. You know,
Yeah,
at
yeah,
this
but-
point,
but I
those,
mean-
those
I mean,
series are separated by. But I think that they should, though. If they, I don't like the idea that if you're going to get as obsessive as we claim to be about this stuff, then if out there in space in the same reality, the Lilat system is those events are happening. Thankfully, thanks to Tricky, we've been able to say that they happen at some point in the past. So if there are any crazy universe-shattering events, we can say that they have patched themselves up by the time 1994 rolls around. But I think that it's part of the weird, beautiful, to use your term, messy, strangeness of this tapestry. It is kind of on us to figure out how to make it make sense, because then otherwise you're describing what this Larson guy or whoever this was is describing is it's a branching multiverse. It's like every single action has an infinite number of possible outcomes, and those Ninja Turtles fans just need to worry about that thread. But then if you start saying that, then what bearing does any event have on any other bear? It basically, none of it has any consequence whatsoever. And I think the whole point of having a shared universe breaks down if you start to make those sort of proclamations.
I looked it up. His name is Erik Larson.
Okay.
Erik, and then Larson, Larsen. Anyway, so I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree here, because the way I see it is, like, he's saying that crossovers, if they're not born from each other, since Ninja Turtles was not a spin-off of Savage Dragon, since Spawn was not a spin-off of Savage Dragon, since they're merely crossing over, the crossover, that nexus point is all you really need to worry about. That's the only time that both series are explicitly canon with one another, and that everything that happened before and after aren't necessarily canon in, like, the Savage Dragon universe. And I think you're thinking more in terms of the larger Donkey Kong universe, but not so much like Mario and Zelda or whatever else we cross over with. And but in this case, it's a different thing that we're talking about, though, because we know, thanks to things like the warp pipes, and thanks to, in the Zelda series, they've got the Sacred Realm, they have low rule. We know that these Nintendo series that have crossed over in Smash Brothers come from a multiverse. So yeah, Mario Galaxy 2, the first Mario Galaxy, can reboot the entire Mushroom universe, and that doesn't necessarily need to have any bearing on what happens in our Donkey Kong universe, physical universe, nor does it need to reboot the Zelda universe. But those things are happening in those other bubble multiverse realities. I don't like the idea that you can say, those events are being exposed in this other arbitrary meta game series, so we can ignore them and they have no bearing. I don't think that's fair. If these characters can interact, then yeah, they might go off into their own little places, but we can't just turn a blind eye to those things, because they have weight. Otherwise, the crossover was meaningless. I guess. I mean, but as a Donkey Kong Universe scholar, I don't have to give a shit what happens in Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. I mean, it's
No, I'm not saying you do.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant to you, and you're also helped by the fact that it takes place in the Mushroom Universe. So it's out of sight, out of mind for us. But if the Mario series took place in the same physical universe as the DKU, yeah, we probably would have to care whenever there are staggering implications, like in Mario Galaxy, rebooting reality.
It's debatable. I see Erik Larson's point, and it's something I personally kind of have followed over the years. For example,
that's so weird to hear you say that, though, because we've always maintained that it's the creative exercise that has value in trying to make this stuff fit.
Enter Donkey Kong Universe continuity. I'm talking about stuff outside the Donkey Kong universe.
The Donkey Kong physical universe, or the DKU series of games?
The DKU series of games.
Okay, well, but that's an arbitrary distinct. I really think that our term Donkey Kong Universe is a misnomer, and it's doing more damage than good to attracting people to this concept, because it is kind of standoffish to tell people, like, we've established these rules, and this is the Donkey Kong universe, but asterisk, we're not talking about a physical universe as you might be thinking of it. We're just laying claim to this term.
It's a term from, I mean, the Donkey Kong universe was devised, the actual term itself was devised in 1999. We should have called it the Donkey Kong Country universe, if anything, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah, or I think it's because a universe describes a physical place, I think that's what's getting confusing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a term that was kind of borrowed from, when I was growing up, there was the DC universe or the DCU.
Right.
And that's actually a multiverse unto itself. It's not just a universe, it's a multiverse, which gets confusing to some people. But it's interesting because, getting back to the main point, because we could argue about semantics of that all we want, but as far as what makes a shared universe
nothing but
great,
time, baby.
apparently, what makes a shared universe great? When I was growing up, the weird thing is, and it's so weird to see it become such a ubiquitous term and such a everybody's trying to make a shared universe these days. Like Universal is trying to make a shared universe with their monster movies. When they had a shared universe back in the 30s and 40s and 50s with their monster series, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, that was a shared universe. And it was a messy shared universe, but it was a shared universe. You had Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, you had the Abbott and Costello movies where they met all the monsters. And that,
it was a graveyard bash.
But that's actually interesting. That was one of the earliest shared universes in popular, conception, at least as far as the 20th century. I don't know if we can, go back or even earlier to see in literature if there are any shared universes. But yeah, the original Universal monster universe was also, I think, it had its flaws. It was one of the earliest examples, so continuity wasn't always that great between the different properties or from sequel to sequul, but one of the reasons,
although Hyle, you are forgetting there's only 3 real monsters: Dracula, Blackula, and Son of Kong.
Right? But the thing is, that's actually my favorite Futurama line ever.
Is it?
It's just so absurd. Like, what? There's only 3
it's
real monsters.
One.
Yeah,
Dracula, Blackula, and Son of Kong.
Trump 2016.
That was actually my Dr. Mrs. the Monarch voice.
Oh, okay.
It should have been Panucci.
But what made the Universal monster shared universe so successful is that they also had wildly differing tones, because they had the Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello meets the Mummy. They had these full-on piss-take comedies that kind of tore down the concept of monster movies, and just having that exist next to the actual horror movies, except, still in the same universe. Usually the monsters were played by the same actors. Bela Lugosi played Dracula, in Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. So it just, I love when a shared universe gets gonzo like that, and when it can really just become something that it wasn't born to be.
Hey, speaking of gonzo, the Muppets have had shared universes over the ages.
That's right. The Muppets is actually one of the shared universes that's most comparable to the Donkey Kong universe, because you had the Muppets, you had Sesame Street, you had Fraggle Rock. Eventually there was various buyouts, and the different properties are now owned by different people, but you can't erase the past, you can't erase the origin point. I would say
Kermit used to be a reporter on Sesame Street, despite the fact that he's now owned by Disney and they're owned by Children's Television Workshop.
I would say the Muppets are one of the most successful shared universes. I mean, yes, like any shared universe that's gone on for decades, it's had its missteps. But as far as actually shared universes that work, I would say the Muppets definitely in that category, because there's such a wide variety of material, and there's no Muppet house style. Sesame Street's for the kids. The Muppets can skew, kids to adults depending on what the property is. Fraggle Rock is, I don't know who the fuck Fraggle Rock is for. Stoners?
Yeah, basically.
All right.
I remember my first gig at NTTV was this in college. I was associate producer on a show called Denton Kids Club, and you remember Denton Kids Club?
I remember Denton Kids Club. Yeah.
I played Silly Simon, the sleepy sycamore. That's what associate producing was. But there was this spinoff that the guy trying to do it, who was a huge stoner, trying to get off the ground, that was essentially a Fraggles ripoff called the Fuzzy Wuzzles. So yes, that's the demographic to which you're referring.
Yeah. So yeah, when I was a kid, though, shared universes, they existed, but they were never remarked upon. It was nothing anybody ever strived to have exist. You had, again, the Universal monster movies, which, were in the popular consciousness basically by the 90s. I mean, they were for licensing, sure, but as far as a viable property, it sure as hell wasn't. You had the Muppets, and then you had comic book universes, DC and Marvel, which did try. I mean, they're pioneers in that, they did try to have a shared universe that made sense. And and it's hard to talk about DC and Marvel, the comic book properties, because they've been under so many different editors and stewards over the years that at various points in time they've been very successful as a concept, and at various points in time they've been fucking train wrecks. And when they're fucking train wrecks is when they have a very similar tone from book to book to book. That's DC's problem right now. They rebooted with the New 52, so all the books became grimdark and edgy, and everybody's brooding like Batman, and Superman's life fucking sucks, and it's just, and the only successful book they have right now is Batman, because that is, everybody's trying to ape Batman, but they don't realize that to have successful properties other than Batman, you've got to let them be something other than Batman.
Let their own personal freak flag fly.
One of the earliest shared universes I experienced, though, was the TGIF shared universe. And
are we really getting into? Okay.
Oh, you said we had all the time in the world. And
all
guess
right,
what?
I
Fuller
regret
House
those words
just launched.
immediately.
Fuller House just launched last week on Netflix. I haven't watched it as of the time of recording, but I am looking forward to digging into some Fuller House.
The AV Club, an Onion property that does actual serious TV reviews and articles, their review the headline of their review of Fuller House was, Fuller House is like a porn parody without the porn.
Check out my comments in that article, by the way.
No way, really?
Oh yeah, I had one of the top ranking comments last I checked.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm Slush with the evil acorn avatar. Look me up on the AV Club.
Jesus Christ.
So, but the TGIF universe, this is, I think, the crux of my point. And I also want to bring Doctor Who into this, and we'll take our final call here too. But, because Kev brought up Doctor Who, and that's actually, something in my notes here that I was going to bring up. TGIF is a shared universe that was too offhands, that was too loosey-goosey, and ultimately failed as a result. Because I think ground zero of the TGIF universe was Perfect Strangers, which is a show that is outdated, but I think we both appreciate for the pure physical comedy of it.
Yeah, it's replete with sitcom tropes, but it does all of those tropes so well. So you can't really hold it against the show. It's like, yes, you're aiming for the middle tier, but you're spectacularly succeeding at it.
Yeah, and just the pure physical comedy of it. It reminded me of like a Three Stooges or Laurel and Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of like out of its time, considering.
Oh yeah, Mark Lynn Baker and
Bronson
Pinchot. They are such good physical comedians.
Yeah. And the show was bizarre. It could get bizarre, especially when you brought in Balki and his customs for Meepos, and it was just a weird show. But it.
Are you saying it got ridiculous?
Oh, I would say it. Don't be ridiculous, Chad.
But that would do the show no favors.
No, absolutely not. So from Perfect Strangers came Family Matters, which was a pure DKU style spin-off from Perfect Strangers, because Harriet, the elevator operator, we eventually met her husband Carl in Family Matters, and Carl, I almost said Coral because that's the way I think to say Carl now. Carl Winslow, played by Reginald Mel Johnson, of Die Hard and Ghostbusters fame.
We love Reginald Vell Johnson on DK Vine.
He's one of our patron saints of DK Vine. He is part of the DK Vine forum, not a member of the DK Vine forum, just a fixture of the DK Vine forum.
Yes, someday we hope to have him, but until then,
yeah, I would love to have him on the Kongversation. So, Reginald, tell me about your thoughts on Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
That would be amazing to have Reginald Vell Johnson on this podcast.
Make it happen, people. Reginald,
Yeah.
if you're listening, and I know you probably are, give us a call. DK Vine Hotline. So anyway, Family Matters was a pure spinoff of Perfect Strangers. Harriet and Carl went off on their own show about their family. That show eventually went off the rails, but
Because of Urkel.
what made Family Matters, what made the shared universe ultimately fail was because the people in charge of it didn't give a shit. It would be like, you could say Rare never intended to have a shared universe, but when they realized that it existed, they at least cared enough to make light of it, to reference it, to indulge the fans who celebrated it.
To keep that goldfish busy.
Yes, but no, the Perfect Strangers TGIF universe, nobody gave a shit. And that really came to light near the end of Family Matters, when not only did they replace the actress who played Harriet Winslow, when she was the whole point of the spinoff to begin with, technically. I mean, that was her show. She was the character spun off. It would be like if Banjo became an art...
The Judy Ann Elder season.
Right. It would be like if Banjo-Kazooie suddenly rebooted with Banjo being an aardvark instead of a bear. It wouldn't make any sense. But
Yeah, and why is he so fit all of a sudden?
But not only that, but in the final season, they had Mark Lynn Baker appear on the show as a different character other than Larry Appleton. They didn't care that it was a Family Matters spinoff, or Perfect Strangers spinoff. They didn't care. By the season 11, they were like, well, nobody remembers that. Who gives a shit? Wank, wank, wank.
Yeah, well, I doubt Markland Baker cared either. He was probably happy for the work.
they just gave him a bowl of like cat food and he ate it happily. He lapped it up.
Should I learn any lines? No, just sit in the corner of the Winslow living room and eat your cat food.
No, Mark Lynn Baker played Harriet's new boss, and he was a complete asshole. And I was just like, why would you get Mark Lynn Baker and not have him be Larry Appleton? I mean, I was a kid, and I knew that it was a Family or Perfect Stranger spinoff. I knew that. But I mean, no respect for the intelligence of the audience. Granted, it was a sitcom, and as you said, it aimed straight for Middle America, and I'm sure they didn't have anal retentive nerds really in their main concerns, but.
Yeah, that's what The Simpsons of the age was for.
Yes, but The Simpsons is considered a brilliant show of that era, while Family Matters is considered schlock. So
no, that's what I'm saying. The anal retentive nerds were all over watching The Simpsons, not Family Matters.
Right. I was an anal retentive nerd who grew up with Family Matters and reluctantly watched the final season out of, I don't know, a sense of obligation. But you would also have things like Urkel appearing on Full House, which in our vernacular would be like a Mario Kart situation where Urkel would be Donkey Kong appearing in a Mario property. But and then Urkel would also appear in Step by Step, and Urkel really got around, that's what I'm saying. But then, like, Michelle from Full House would appear in Hanging with Mr. Cooper. But then all the shows would then reference other shows in the TGIF lineup as if they were shows, like Step by Step had Urkel appear, but then they referenced Full House all the time as if it were a TV show, but Urkel appeared on Full House. So I guess you'd have to apply the Savage Dragon logic to those shows to make it work, because...
Yeah.
But my point is, it was a messy shared universe, it didn't have any internal logic, and because of that, it fell apart. And
it's ironically, before we take the call, our show Elvis and Slick Monty shares the same kind of messy crossover with its sister series Homeless in Denton, in that Homeless in Denton once appeared on a television in Elvis and Slick Monty, and Elvis and Slick Monty once appeared in an NTTV advertisement that was on in the background of a Homeless in Denton episode. So they both exist as TV shows in each other's realities.
Savage Dragon rules, man. Savage Dragon rules.
All right, let's take that call.
All right.
Hey guys, so I know you guys are doing an episode on shared universe.
Oh no!
Here's my question for you related to this. What do you think about the, shall I say, Nintendo way of handling things? Like, you just don't care. Like, do you like to say, like, stand away and why Dixie or Funky weren't in returns or something like that? Or do you think it's kind of like a lot of, just really annoying that you don't like to connect your series, or even put things in the same, kind of thinking. Like, it's like how Donkey Kong always gets a terrible level or used to always get a terrible level in those games, or how Smash Brothers isn't canon according to Iwata. So, again, why does Nintendo not like shared universe? What do you guys think? Oh, and one more thing, unrelated, but Chad, I really hate you for making Heroes of Shazam. That game literally broke me last night. Hyle was there, so he could tell you all about it. Thanks, bye.
Heroes of Kazam. Now that's a phrase I haven't heard in a long time.
It's going to strike you down and you'll become more powerful. Yeah, Memechi beat Heroes of Kazam the other night, which was the not even infamous because we've kind of buried it. It was the 1 year anniversary celebration for DK Vine back in the year 2000, August 22nd, 2000. It was a Flash game that you devised.
It was not Flash.
It wasn't Flash?
No, it was made with a program called Multimedia Fusion. Which
okay.
It's like the Games Factory. It was like the pro version of the Games Factory, and so you had to do a little pseudo coding to get it to do some advanced stuff.
The Unreal Engine of its day.
Yeah, it was a game creation utility. Yeah, but yeah, I spent basically a whole summer making that game.
You know what? You brought joy to a lot of people recently.
Oh boy. All I ask is that I hear they're working on a sequel. Don't waste your time on a sequel. If you guys want to make a game, make a real game. Just make a game. I know you all can make a great game. Don't base it off of that crap.
I have if it gets off the ground, I volunteered my writing services. That's all I can say.
Okay.
I think I was watching them basically play the game. And
you're able to use Twitch? That's fantastic.
Oh, no.
Since you had never showed up on any of my streams, I just assumed that you were it was not supported by your firewall or something.
Oh no, it was over Skype. But I was in tears just watching this game and remembering all the weird things we put in it. Like I remember suggesting the semicolon block in the Mario parody.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the semicolon block. It was like finding children you never. I'm usually sleeping in on Sundays, by the way, when you're twitching. So.
Oh, is that the okay?
Anyway. Well, does Nintendo hate shared universes? Chad, what do you think about Memechi? Memechi didn't mention ducks. I thought for sure this was going to be about the duck universe,
No, but no, you know what he did do is he tricked you into mentioning ducks.
Well, the Duck comics, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck. I thought for sure this was coming.
I don't think Nintendo hates shared universes. I just think they're kind of ambivalent towards them. Their whole edict is the Miyamoto thing, gameplay first, and so story, much less a larger architected shared story, is not really on their radar.
I was going to say they're lazy and they don't give a shit. I don't think that's the case. I think it's a different ethos, and which is weird because considering Miyamoto finds like joy in all these imagine if your garden trowel was actually a jet airliner to the planet Gorptex, his whole thing. You would think you would find joy in crafting a whole breathing interconnected world that kind of exists in your mind. But he seems more concerned from a game-to-game basis, and he kind of doesn't really... There's really not much connective thread, even in his own series. Sometimes there are, but I would say Zelda's made an attempt over the recent decade at having a consistent timeline, at least.
And that's the Aonuma influence,
right?
I think.
Right. So maybe the culture will be changing when Miyamoto steps down. But yeah, I think Nintendo's also a little bit behind the times. Again, Rare kind of was toying with this shared universe shit back in the 90s, back when they were with Nintendo. And I don't know. I think it's kind of finally caught up with us in our culture, and Nintendo's just kind of saying, no, Smash Brothers, they're just toys. Why would Link be appearing with it? I think eventually they're just going to relent on that too, because again, the whole point of Smash Brothers is to have these characters interacting. It's not fun otherwise.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, is there anything more we can possibly say about shared universes?
Yes. My final point.
Okay.
Kev mentioned Doctor Who, and I think Doctor Who, along with the Donkey Kong universe, along with the Muppets, and honestly, along with Fox's X-Men cinematic universe now, they're all examples, at least at the moment, of successful shared universes. And that is because, again, they're wildly different in tone unto each other. Like, you've got Torchwood being the, show filled with sex and adult themes, and Sarah Jane Adventures being the show made for the kids, and Doctor Who being somewhere in the middle. But then they're all interacting with each other occasionally. They all reference each other. Alien species will pop up that, were introduced in, Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures or whatever, stuff like that.
What about K9 and Company? Where does it leave that?
K9 and Company is canon. It was a failed spinoff, though, so it only had the one pilot episode. Although K9 did have an Australian spinoff called K9 from several years back. It only went for one season. Weird thing about Doctor Who is that the characters themselves are not all owned by the BBC. So, like, if a writer creates a character, oftentimes that character will then be owned by that writer, and then they'll license them back to the BBC. But then they can go off and make those characters into their own spin-offs if they get a deal. During the great Doctor Who drought, after the show ended in '89, but before it came back in 2005, there were a lot of made for straight-to-home video movies starring Doctor Who aliens and characters, but without ever mentioning the Doctor, or any Doctor Who characters besides them. So, it's interesting, but I would say that messiness itself makes for a fun shared universe. But you don't want to go TGIF. You never go full TGIF, is my point. You've got to have a little bit of a guiding hand in your shared universe. You've got to have people on the inside thriving on it. But if you have too much of an iron fist, then you get an Ant-Man type situation where it just becomes formulaic, it becomes bland, and it becomes just like everything else. So I would say that you got to ride that line right down the middle, and that's what makes a good shared universe. And I think we're going to see that when people ultimately reject Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and the DC cinematic universe completely fumbles and crumbles before it starts. I'm predicting it right here. I'm calling it. It's going to flop.
Tell me, do you bleed? If he shoots ya, you will.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.